Well, welcome to Real Vision. My name is Santiago Velez, the R&D lead at Block Digital, and today I'm very excited to bring an honored guest, Professor Emin Gün Sirer, also CEO of Ava Labs. Welcome.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Santiago.
So I'll confess right now, I've been a longtime watcher of yours, stalker of your work, and I'm very excited to have you here today because I hope that we can kind of touch on a broad landscape of computer science and as it relates to consensus systems, digital assets, and eventually what our audience is interested in, which is kind of the impact on finance and economics. So before we get into all that, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your passion for this space, how you got into it, and kind of let us know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been in this space for quite a long time. I'm one of the very, very few people who can say that I was into digital currencies before Bitcoin, before Satoshi. I started in 2002. And back then, as you might remember, some people might remember that file sharing was a big thing. Peer-to-peer systems were just emerging. And as with any system, what happens is people want to take resources from peer-to-peer systems, and they don't really want to give resources. People want to download files. They don't want to upload files. And so back in 2002, I had this idea that, hey, you know what would actually make people want to upload files is if you had magic internet money and you had to use it to download it, after a while, you'd run out and you'd have to upload things to get money back, and that would create an economy of sorts. And so we built a system called Karma. It was published in 2003, and it had minting of coins by proof of work in it. It was the first such system to incorporate proof of work for minting. And it's incredibly well-cited academic work. I did not have the vision to push it as a replacement for the US dollar. That's unique to Satoshi, and it's an amazing idea, very, very aggressive vision and a very good idea. And nor did I have the idea to fold the consensus protocol into the minting. So Satoshi also did come in with a technical improvement on Karma that is pretty significant. So in any case, it was that was my start in the magic internet money creation, and so Karma is very well cited. But shortly after that work, I spoke to my mentors, and they said, "Look, this is a great area. There's a lot to be done here, but as a young assistant professor, you will never be able to get funding for this kind of work." And they're right. And they were saying, look, the entire nation is reeling from 9/11. People are worried about terrorist financing. You will never see the government, which is the main source of funds for academia, fund work in this area. So I cooled off of that particular line of work. I worked on other things that are in the peer-to-peer space. I worked on peer-to-peer reputation, et cetera, et cetera. These are all ideas that will come back to my career later on. And so then the financial crash happened in 07, 08, and Satoshi came up with an amazing breakthrough. So what he came up with is a huge step up in the science of consensus systems, and then I took an interest back again in cryptocurrencies, and with Dr. Itai Eyal and myself, we found the biggest known flaw in the Bitcoin mining system. And we came up with an alternative strategy that miners can use to cheat the system, essentially, and to make more coins than they should. And this is called selfish mining. And it's a really big, I think it's a really surprising, I don't know if it's big, but it's a surprising finding. And it showed that a lot of the claimed benefits of Nakamoto consensus were actually not correct. But a lot of things that developers kept repeating, a lot of things that Satoshi said were incorrect. And it is what it is. Satoshi is not God. He's just a person with a very good idea. So that was, and of course that created a lot of backlash, and I got death threats, a lot of hatred, and there was a crowdfunding effort to prove me wrong, and there were multiple. And every single crowdfunded project leader who tried to prove us wrong ended up rediscovering exactly what we said, and ended up flipping 180 degrees and saying, look, no, this is a real problem. It's borne out by science. So that, then I had, there was a big shift. So we went from being hated to being invited to all the conferences. And so I've been in the space ever since. I worked on security of coins at rest. I worked on characterizing scalability. I worked on characterizing decentralization. I worked on Bitcoin next generation, Bitcoin NG, which is a protocol used by many coins. I worked on very fast layer 2 protocols. And most recently, I've been working on the Avalanche system.
Excellent. It's awe-inspiring, the depth, I guess, of your experience and how you've kind of touched these communities along the way. That's one of the things that really drew me to your work is, there's very few people who have this kind of long view. And I think that's an essential element for design, right? If your considerations for designing a system need to have both experience as well as the technical. So can you give our audience a little bit?
That's a nice way of saying that I'm pretty old.
I feel your pain.
For a long time.
Can you give our audience a little bit of a high-level 40,000-foot education of consensus protocols? Maybe touch upon BFT, Nakamoto, what are these concepts? And then we can get into how Avalanche, which is the protocol that you and your labs have developed. Can you give us a high level understanding so we can have a good discussion?
Sure. So at the core of every cryptocurrency lies a protocol, a process of sending messages so that the set of nodes that make up that cryptocurrency can maintain an orderly ledger. So the core task for any currency is to keep track of who has how much of which asset, right? That's all you're trying to do. Alice has 10 coins. Alice gives 5 to Bob, and everybody has to agree that Alice gave those 5 coins to Bob. If there's a single person who thinks that she gave them to Charlie, then that's called a double spend, and it must never happen. So these protocols are very, very important. They are used everywhere, not just in cryptocurrencies. So when you log into Gmail, you're really logging into a collection of machines that all have to agree on the contents of your inbox. So when you log into Facebook, behind the scenes, you're seeing essentially a consensus protocol of a slightly different kind, but nevertheless a consensus protocol, because you have to see the same information from multiple sources. The distributed systems area, my area, is not, it's a young science. It doesn't have a huge history as with everything in computer science. It's only 45 years old. In that time frame, very early on, I would say around in the 70s, in the mid 70s, people began to realize how important this consensus process was. And people started working on consensus protocols starting in the late 70s. And in that time frame, there were 2 major breakthroughs or 2 major approaches to how consensus protocols are built. So the very first approach is the kind of protocol that powers Gmail, the kind of protocol that powers Facebook, the kind of protocol that that I will come back to, that some people are trying to resurrect now for some of the coins. These protocols are called classical consensus protocols. 2 of our most distinguished scientists that I look up to invented that whole area. One of them is Barbara Liskov, who retired from MIT, very well known professor. Another is Leslie Lamport. Both Lamport and Liskov have Turing Awards partially for the work that they did in this space, in growing this space. These classical protocols all work by selecting a small set of representatives and having them maintain the balances. So suppose there's a billion people out there who want to maintain some kind of an orderly data structure. These protocols will have them, we'll find a way for them to elect a small set, about 100 or so, and have those 100 people maintain the balances.
I hope you enjoyed this clip and will decide to join us for the rest of the interview, among many others, on realvision.com/crypto. The crypto channel is 100% free. You just have to sign up. Look forward to seeing you there.